Hey everyone, welcome to yet another fantastic episode of 302 of a Kind. We are SEO experts Kevin, the Indic.
And Marcus, the Tandler.
Thanks for naming me. Dude, it's been an incredible week. There's been quite a lot of stuff in the news, and I really think we have to talk about this. I'm always amazed, like every week, there's always something happening. There's always something to talk about, and this week, was not different. Let me maybe share my screen right away.
It's a wild time, man. So much happening right now on all the different fronts. It's a good time to be in this business. I just want to say.
Absolutely. What a time to be alive. Also, it's just fantastic. Although, I mean, like from the SEO side, it's a little bit.
Yeah, it's not great. But look, if you're adaptive, then it's a great time.
That's what it's all about. And talking about adaptive, I think we all got to adapt to a new content reality. And this picture made the rounds. I saw that picture like everywhere, plastered all over X, plastered all over LinkedIn. Everybody was like having some thoughts about this specific slide here from Dennis Sullivan, presented at the Toronto Search Live event. We actually got all the slides right here, thanks to Jean-Christophe. Jean-Christophe. I'm just not speaking French. Jean-Christophe. He has all the screenshots for us, and we're going to dive in this in a second. But I want to talk about this because, again, I've seen this picture maybe like 10, 20 times in my LinkedIn feed, always heavily liked, always heavily commented. So everybody seems to jump on this, as I would say, actually pretty nugget, because it shows, I think, quite clear what type of content we as SEOs need to produce in the future to stay competitive. And this is really an angle that I've never heard like this before, right? It was like always helpful content, non-helpful content, but this commodity with this non-commodity content seems much better. What was your first impression when you saw this slide?
Look, I've criticized Denny a lot of times in the past, and I've praised him many times in the past. And I'll be honest, when I saw one of the first slides, which was, "Oh, good geo is just SEO.
Oh, I wanted to get
good content." I'm like, my man, please, like, nobody needs this anymore. And then I saw this slide, and I was like, oh, wait a minute. That is the first time in a very long time that Google or a Google representative gives incredibly helpful advice. Absolutely. And you can tell by the resonance of the SEO AO community, right? Now, there's an important point that I want to make, which is, first of all, kudos to Danny. Thank you for finally doing this. Mm-hmm. Second of all, this helps Google. And this could have come much, much earlier, because this gives nothing away except for a sharper understanding of anybody who creates content and wants to be visible in search, of what good content looks like these days. And it comes straight from the source. And so now you have all these smart people figuring out how to create more of that type of content. And the thing is, this content is not easy to create, right? Mm-hmm. So Google gets both by being forward-leaning and sharing what people should actually be doing. So I think this is a win-win-win. I wish it would have come sooner. And also, thank you, Denny, for finally doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, just like diving in a little deeper, I think you really see really clear, by the way, while I'm welcoming Sasha in here. Hello, Sasha. Great you're on board again. And Dennis Rödereber, the man, the legend. Here he is. Hello, logging in on LinkedIn this time. Oh, yeah, we're actually not streaming on my personal Facebook account, only on the right account. I don't know why that happened. It just didn't work. Sorry for that. But thanks for switching to LinkedIn, the new Facebook. Well, they thrive to be, I think. But I think the big difference between this commodity versus non-commodity content, and we can all see this, like on the left side, everybody can create this, right? Top 7 tips for first-time home buyers, right? I might not have like a lot of experience in this. I only bought one home so far.
Bought 0.
Yeah, right, great. But this is super easy. I could also give this to an AI, give me like 7 best tips, for first-time home owners. Here's your content. Thank you very much, right? This is exactly the type of content people are creating right now, with the help of AI, without the help of AI. But this is like has been more or less standard practice. And on the other side, you see like marble versus grape juice. Why refuse to install stone for a family of 5? And there's actually referencing a video where they basically like testing toddlers making stains on marble to actually like come to the conclusion, well, you shouldn't use marble if you have toddlers in your house, especially if they like grape juice. Or the upper example, why this customer's shoes collapsed after 400 miles, a wear pattern analysis. So somebody would have needed to walk 400 miles with that shoe and really wanting to create this content. He's basically just walking 400 miles to create this content. So, and I think this says it quite clearly, ChatGPT can't do that kind of stuff. There's like nowhere in hell they can create this type of content right now. Maybe, when you also buy like very soon a robot and you can like put them into the shoes, and you can like the marathon that just happened in Beijing, right? With the robots. That could have worked, right? But anyway, this is very far off. And I think this is the big difference here, right? Super easy to create, super hard to create. But on the other side, as you just said, Google is basically, I would really, when I saw this, I was like thinking, oh, Google, is presenting the wish list again. Google wants SEOs to go into a certain direction. Hey, you should use, when we're all doing the Google Plus integration, to have a picture show up in the SERPs, and whatever else, whatever other hoops Google let us jump through to get a tiny reward for a short while before they burn it up again. And this sounded like, hey guys, you're missing the traffic. How about you create more of that kind of content? We don't have that kind of content. People are asking these questions. We need this content. Hey, why not? Why not create this content so I can use this in my AI overviews? Yeah, you also can get some traffic. I'm not sure, but I can imagine that there's the chance of getting traffic if you write that. Okay, forget that.
In the multiverse.
This is like really that type of content what Google would love to have, because this is like really coming from a person, like real experience, right? Like really, and over time, and this is so valuable. But do you think? I mean, like of course, it's helpful for us. It gives us more direction, and I think a lot of people are now like, how can I, like for my brand, what kind of non-commodity content can I create? Ideally with first-party data that only I have access to, or that kind of stuff. But with what has happened lately, do you think like every SEO is going to like jump right on board and like, oh yeah, sure, Google, let me create exactly what you want, and hopefully also get some traffic then,
Yeah, that's the other side of the coin is the traffic, right? Or what do you get back? Now, I would also argue these topics on the right-hand side are much more interesting to read as a person. I'd be much more interesting to read that than the left-hand side topics, right? So there's an audience building component as well. But to your point, SEOs will jump on this, but the question is when. And I think there's two kind of ways this can go. Either you adapt to that new reality, and you change the unit economics of content creation, where you create maybe less content, but much more valuable content. Or you don't jump on it and you use AI to create a lot of the content on the on the left side of the column, and then you fall on your face. And this is what I'm seeing right now. I actually get a lot of companies right now that are reaching out that have lost 40, 50, 60, 80% of organic traffic since the middle of January. And whenever I dive a bit deeper, it's always that they create a lot of AI content. And the content is not per se bad, right? Like you read this and you're like, okay, I could see a human having written it, but it's more of the left column type of content than the right column, right? Right column type of content. And I think that is the key point here. Google will penalize more of the left-hand side of stuff, left column stuff. So SEOs will have to join in on that other more high-quality content sooner or later. The question is when.
Mhm. I just had a thought. I was like, damn.
Say it.
No, I'm not going to say it.
Oh, okay. Don't say it. Don't say it.
Yeah, I need to investigate first. Maybe I'm
Okay,
just embarrassing myself.
Yeah, I have a theory there. I have a theory.
Yeah, let's look at some of the other stuff that was shared, because as you said before, like there's most of the stuff that was shared was very like basic than the stuff that we already know. I mean, like Martin Split does a phenomenal job, presenting this kind of stuff. Also Martin is such a great, empathetic, just all around great human kind of speaker. Really gotta love this guy. And then Danny, and as you said, I was scrolling through these slides and I'm like, yeah, none, got it. How the query fan out works. Okay, that's nice. And just like you, I mean, yeah, good SEO is good geo. Okay. By the way, LLMNOPEO. Okay, that's not a good acronym. Right.
I like it. We should use it.
And I mean, like, all right, we heard that, right? But any good SEO is largely having great content for people. Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks
and
for
fish need to breathe
rewriting.
in the water.
Yeah, rewriting this again. So, and then he dives into this, what really non-commodity content is. So it's unique. It brings a viewpoint, information. It has a content that others lack or can easily replicate. It's mostly this viewpoint, like really a person with experience. Or anything like this. This is so super valuable. It's specific, talks about a specific instance, situation, or thing, not general rules, steps, or generic information. It's like a perfect case study or something like this. And it's authentic. And I think this is the most important thing, is authentic, because it comes from a person. And it also demonstrates firsthand knowledge or experience. So this is basically EEAT in a nutshell, right? This is EEAT content as it should be, right? So I think it's very, very well explained. I also like this measure overall value. We've seen when people click from AA overviews, they're more likely to spend more time on the site. Why? Blah, blah. So basically saying, hey, you're losing traffic, but if somebody clicks, it's going to be good. Nobody's thinking right now. Yeah, but if somebody will click, it will be really good. For now, we're going to take the clicks. Maybe we're going to run ads and stuff like this. But if somebody clicks on your site, it's going to be really good.
See, there is a poor strawman argument behind this argumentation. The reality is, yes, we have seen higher quality clicks from AI referrals. That's true.
Yeah.
But the comparison is shockingly low. So you could make the argument that, yes, all of the AI basically just answers top of the funnel questions, but then when people are ready to convert, they come to your site. So in theory, even though you get less referral traffic from AI, your conversions or revenue should be the same.
Yeah.
But that is clearly not the case. And part of the reason is when you have a person on your site, even for top of the funnel content, you have a way to influence them, right? Brand recognition, newsletter signups, maybe sometimes they convert right on your site, and all of that is going away, but Google is not addressing that here.
Absolutely. By the way, he says there's no needs to chunk content. Every SEO saying you need to chunkable content. Okay, I mean, like we all, I think, going hard on the point that you need a good website structure, right? That can be easily, crawled and understood. Okay, I get it. Blah, blah, blah. Third-party tools, we don't have access to internal metrics. Why would they, right? Okay. Yeah, all this is good news. Good news, everyone.
Celebrate.
Yeah, celebrate. Yeah. So what you do, prioritize non-commodity content. Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. But nevertheless, also at least we got one nugget out of this, and I think it's a very good nugget, and it shows at least the direction that SEOs should be going. And I think, I mean, like, these events really help a lot of webmasters. Obviously, we are like so deep in this topic. Obviously, we know all this stuff. We've heard this stuff tens of times before. But obviously, there's also a lot of people that don't have that experience, that are just like normal business owners that are trying to optimize their own site. So obviously, this is super valuable to them. And I love that Google is actually doing these kinds of events. As the Search Live events are like really valuable, and you should definitely go to one if it makes a stop in your city. But talking about other events that Google is running, this is quite interesting. This was already from April 6th, so like 3 weeks back. And I just came about it today, and it's when Google AI ghosts the experts who fed it. So what happened here was actually Google was, doing these, they had also had this helpful content summit. There was also a lot of, obviously, what can you say, negative review of these events, because they listened and said, oh yeah, it's not you, it's us, stay strong. But the follow-up didn't really happen, and especially not a lot of traffic was regained by the people that attended these events, and we have heard this from multiple people attending these events. But here, this is also something I just didn't hear this story, and I've just read it today, and I thought this is so crazy again. So because Google actually here in Wyoming, they invited a couple of publishers in that case. They invited publishers, and this is this Mike Hardaker guy, the CEO of Mountain Weekly News. So very niche publishing sites, obviously losing a lot of traffic. And also, hey, Google, what's your advice? What should we do? And so they were all invited by Google to a web creator summit. Yeah, a web creator summit. And this was already in October 2024. And this is, this guy has been publishing content for 24 years, right? This is a very good source, I think, for Google, to hear from, like to get like his view on what is happening. So I think Google is getting a lot of good feedback from the people attending this event. So they invited Hardaker and 19 other independent creators to help fix the search ecosystem as AI disrupted it, which is as if they really invite them with that pitch, help us fix the search ecosystem. That's a tough pitch. I wouldn't have expected them to pitch it this way. More like, hey, like an informal gathering, we need more information to maybe in the future make better decisions for the web as a whole, kind of thing. But hey, guys, help us fix this. Okay. So, and publishers who attended the event learned about new ranking update, blah, blah, blah. They were told September 2023 traffic levels, peak traffic, as you called it, would not return because search was changing as a result of AI. They told us they wanted to hear from the experts, right? They told us search was changing and they needed our help to get it right. Yeah. But Hardaker called it a masterclass in smoke and mirrors. And it's so crazy. So basically what happened was that, this is exactly what this post says. They were basically ghosted after this event, right? So the 20 people went there, they shared everything, and Google is like, oh yeah, let's make this, we fix it together, let's do this. And then, they followed up with Google, and nobody ever responded, right? That's pretty crazy, right? And then it got quite pesky. There must have been like a LinkedIn post, and then Danny Sullivan, I think, responded to this. Mike, I repeatedly and patiently tried to help you and respond to your questions and concerns, both before the event and afterward, to the degree I or anyone from Google is allowed to provide support, blah, 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 blah. Of course, they can't do like the super specific report. Hey, I looked at your domain. You should do this, this, this. Of course, right? This makes a lot of sense. But he's basically saying, hey, even after the event, we were in touch and, we were like still exchanging, but that didn't happen. And Sullivan had asked Hardaker to others to send proof in writing of events that led to the ghosting. Yeah. And then Hardaker actually sent 8 pages. That is like 8 pages document, documenting this. And all the other guys actually chipped in too. And this is the 26-page document. Yeah. let me quote Greg Sterling here. I mean, like also like an industry veteran here. Google fundamentally doesn't care about individual publishers or even its impact on the ecosystem, except insofar as a deleterious. Oh God.
Yep, sounds good.
Impact would degrade its search results and sources of AI training data. And yeah, this pretty much hit home. As again, I haven't heard of from this event. I saw today, and since we're talking about a Google event, right? I just wanted to bring this up because this is again pretty blatant.
Yeah, it looks pretty bad for Google. This is the second time now that they have an event for people and businesses that had been very adversely affected by the changes and policies that they have. And for the second time, they basically for the second time, nothing happens. They're basically repeating a mistake that they made the first time, right? So I think it's not a great idea. It's funny that Nate and the other participants submitted the letter in Google Docs. That has a touch of irony to me. Yeah. But what the end of the article brings to the point what we've known for a while now, which is that Google does not care. They care about the broad ecosystem. They care about revenue. And even about publishers in general. You remember this league, they're a necessary evil. So I would not get my hopes up. I think we're way past the point where, as a publisher, you can expect a sustainable pipeline of traffic from Google. And the best thing you can do is to try to preserve every click that you can get by funneling people into newsletters or other channels, and then build a more diversified source of traffic. It's the best thing you can do.
Absolutely. Well said. Even Brett Tapke wrote about it, when Google AI ghosts the experts who fed it. This is actually how I found it. I found this Brett Tapke article, and this is how I actually learned of this event. Okay, we don't need to talk about this one. Let's talk about this article here. I want to focus on this one. This sounds super interesting. I have no idea. So yeah, let me ask the author directly, Kevin Indig. What is the problem with the big ghost citation problem?
Yeah, a lot of ghosts. We're going from ghosting creators to ghosting citations. And so, look, this is a collaboration with SEMrush. The team has, kindly given me access to a lot of their data, and I use that to kind of investigate a hypothesis that I had for a long time, which is that you can be cited and you can be mentioned in the data, and you don't always get both, right? So I'm working with some larger websites, I'm not going to name the names specifically, that have a lot of proprietary first-party data that is publicly visible, and these sites usually get cited but not mentioned. Right, so they're basically like an aggregator, and they get cited a ton of more than human visitors. That research is not out yet, but they get more citations than human visitors. Wow. But they rarely get mentioned. Right, the data that they provide gets mentioned. Now, when you are a consumer brand, but also when you're like a B2B business, right? Like not an aggregator, but an integrator, you're much more likely to get mentioned than cited, right? So there is this interesting two sides of the same coin where, based on your business, you either get more cited or mentioned, and both can be valuable. And so I use the SEMrush data to figure out, okay, how often do sites and brands actually get cited and mentioned? And the reality is that happens only 13% of the time. So 75% of the time, domains get cited. 38% of the time they get mentioned, but rarely do they ever get both at the same time, right? So number one, you need to understand what business you're in and what the dynamics are around mentions in AI answers and citations to understand what you can even achieve, right? What you should aim for and how you should measure success. Now, second point, that behavior is very different between LLMs, right? So Gemini, AI overviews, ChatGPT, Perplexity, etc. And next week, I'm about to publish another research showing how different these LLMs actually behave. They have very, very different behavior mechanics. But when it comes to citations and mentions, you see, for example, that Gemini is very, very quick to mention brands, much, much, much faster than ChatGPT. So just to put it in perspective, Gemini will mention a brand over 80% of the time. ChatGPT only a little over 20% of the time, right? So you get much more visibility on Gemini than on ChatGPT. And the inverse is true when it comes to citations. So I found that very, very interesting because it means, and again, I'm publishing more research about that on Monday, it means you as a business need to understand not just what's more likely for you, citations or mentions, and how much, but also on which platform, right? So these are all different platforms. Then maybe to finish it up with like a third finding, I found that like the strongest consumer brands get mentioned the most often, right? So Google, Apple, LinkedIn, YouTube, Reddit, but also companies or sites like Healthline, NerdWallet, Forbes. The bigger your footprint on the web and the more people know you, the more popular your brand is, the more you get mentioned.
Super interesting. So what do you think now? Also, I mean, it's super interesting, right? That it's like completely inverse, so to speak. So why do you think that is?
These LLMs have different algorithms to decide what sources to cite and what sources to mention. So there's like it's like an internal secret sauce type of deal. On the other hand, Google and Gemini obviously have a much, much larger corpus simply because they've been crawling the web for 25 years plus. So they have a way different understanding of what brands are out there. But then at the end of the day, it's also simple product design. You know how I think earlier this year, I think it was Lily Ray who called out Google AI mode for not linking out enough. And then I think it was Robbie Stein was like, yeah, you know, we trained the model to link out more. So some of that is also just pure fine tuning, product design, and model behavior.
But what I also find interesting is like the steps, you know, from a Gemini, AI overviews, AI mode, and right, also.
Yes, AI mode, mentioning the least. Only ChatGPT mentions less often, but ChatGPT cites a lot, right? So look, at the end of the day, and I brought this out in my previous research, the most powerful thing that can happen to you is you are mentioned in a short list at the top. So when you ask the LLM what is the best thing or alternative to or approach or whatever, it gives you a short list and you want to be at the top. That is what people take as the recommendation and they act on it. As I saw this in my research. But after that, one of the best things you can do is to influence the answer, and that happens through citations, because citations are a reflections of what sources the LLM pulls information from. So if you have a higher interest to influence the answer itself, you care more about citations. If you want to be in the answer, you care more about mentions.
Really interesting. Awesome research. Also can't wait for Monday. I get an extra scoop here. Yeah, Google dominates mention rates. Wow. I don't know how did that. I don't know.
How could that happen, right? I mean, it's a lot of Google Maps, Google.
So this is Mayo Clinic, dude.
Yes.
Look at this.
Yo Clinic, man.
Yeah, Yo Clinic and Wikipedia.
It got cut off there.
Healthline.
These are all new entities.
Yeah. Should work on that infographic, my friend. LLMs disagree on the same brand 22% of the time. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, this is one example of Instagram here. And it just goes to show, you know, even these big popular brands, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, they have very, very different rates of visibility or mentions and citations on different platforms. So you need to be very, very careful when you say you should be on Reddit or you should do YouTube, right? It's like, what business are you? What platform do you care about? Then make a call on how to invest in your presence across the web.
Very good. Oh, this is also interesting. The UK has the highest rate of domains that I mentioned. Why
Yes.
would that be?
Yeah. Why would that be? It's a good question.
Points. This is crazy. This is like 32% more than the US.
Yeah. The short answer is we don't know why we see these differences in behavior. The long answer is that English-speaking countries are generally more represented because of training data and simply because of the law of large numbers, right? If you have more English text, you're going to train more in English, and so therefore
but you also
more
have
citations.
Australia here. Also, I get it with UK, Canada, US makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, you have India, Australia, US, of course. So English-speaking countries overrepresented. But I don't know the exact mechanics behind it. It's very interesting to see.
And also France, 2.5. I mean, like, this is crazy.
Yeah, not very represented.
That France can...
And we did, like, just to be clear, right? Like we did.
Click? Also,
sorry?
Did they like learn where people click? No, but it doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
No, I'm not sure what the mechanics are. But to be clear, right, we did translate the prompts and ran them through the local versions of the LLM. So these are not English prompts, right? These are localized prompts, but you see a clear preference for English-speaking sources.
Makes sense. Rüdiger, it wasn't him. Okay, thank you very much. By the way, I'm not going to read it, but interesting idea here for a new logo for Google. Right on. Okay, super interesting. Yeah, we can't wait for Monday. Obviously, more of that research, and we are definitely going to talk about it in our next show. Oh no, not next week, but yeah, I think in the next one.
Yes.
Okay, there's another great article from Cyrus. Cyrus is really pushing out so much great content lately. And we talked about this article last week, and now he did a new article, which is pretty great, about 17 content types to survive Google's zero-click future. I really like this. It's so hands-on, right? Because you get really into specific content types that are still winning. I mean, like, obviously, the content is an owned audience, so I own the audience, like Reddit, like a Morning Brew type of thing, marketing newsletter, if you guys don't know this. Obviously, right, if you have your own committed audience that I can, as you said just before, right, like have a big email list. This is worth so much. Having nobody basically in the middle holding out their hand, like pulling people over. No, these are your people. Transaction pages, obviously pages where users can complete an action, buy a book, subscribe, whatever. I mean, this is what it's all about, right? Actions. People want to do something. People want to enable people to do something, not just search for the information, but do something. Obviously, these kind of pages are also winning because Google just can't provide this at the moment. Original research, obviously, always when you have first-party data, this is always chef's kiss, always gold. I think original research. I think this is why you are doing so much original research, Mr. Kevin Indig.
You bet. It is. You bet.
Yeah. UGC communities, create a video podcast like this one. Yay. We're doing good SEO. We're surviving. In-depth reviews and tests, tools, calculators, directories, databases, expert perspective. I mean, it's like so much sense, right? As you read through it, and it's like, this makes so much sense, these types of content type. And this is exactly it, right? As if you really look like what you need to deliver today and what you needed to deliver 15 years ago, 20 years ago, right? This is fundamentally different. Just by the way, it would be, I think, advice like this, like 20 years ago, would have been purely tactical because it's not really about the content, right? I mean, like, we learn anyway, we can't read the content, they fake it, right? So back then it wasn't really about the content, it was more about, like, I think, you all know what I mean. And this is like really non-commodity content, right? This is like all like hard to, let me create this content. You can't just like whip up like a big audience, right? You just can't whip up original research, right? And everything else, or a tool, a calculator, or even provide an expert perspective when you're just not the expert, right? So I think it fits really well of what we talked about in the beginning. I think there's a good guide to when you're really looking at this type of non-commodity content. These are the kind of content types that basically contain that non-commodity content. Though, yeah, thanks so much to Cyrus. This is really phenomenal post and helps a lot.
Fantastic. Yeah, I loved it to share to my community. I think it's an expansion, as you said, to what Danny shared, and it just makes it very clear what to invest in and what not. And I totally agree, man. I love that Cyrus puts this out. I want more.
Yeah, absolutely. And Google has also been pretty busy. Google has actually launched a couple of agentic features. I mean, we have that, right? As Liz Stein was just talking about, Robbie Stein, Robbie Stein and Liz
Reed.
Sorry, yeah, Liz Reed. She was just talking about this. Oh no, it was Sundar Pichai, who actually said it's going to be more agentic, right? I think we talked about this last week when Sundar Pichai was like really saying it's not longer about, like answering all these questions. It's about what's the general task? What do you want to do? And then all these informational questions are just part of that, right? And they want you to empower you to actually do something. And this is the first time we've actually seen some agentic features being introduced to Google Search. One is, and they're available now globally. If I'm looking for hotels, I can now really easily track the price, which is quite nice. You do like a price tracking directly in search. You toggle it, and then you get an email if the prices drop, which is, I think, pretty fantastic. It's pretty cool. And it also, again, you did the search in Google, you get an email again, you go back to Google to complete that task of booking that flight, booking the hotel, and everything else. So I think that's a pretty smart move to incorporate that right in the SERPs. The next one is agentic calling in AI mode for finding last-minute travel gear. So I need like I'm going to Mount Everest tomorrow. So I need something, I don't know, like oxygen.
It's a good idea.
Could be important. And now I can't get it online because I'm leaving tomorrow, right? So it actually finds me local sources, and I can basically, it has this button here. It comes in, and then yeah. I can basically, let's confirm it's in stock nearby. It will actually check if this specific thing might be in stock around where I live, so I can just pick it up. Super interesting. And last but not least, a canvas in AI mode for help building and refining your travel itinerary. Again, also makes a lot of sense that you basically do like the whole itinerary, your whole trip in Google. This is flights, hotels, a rental car, tech cabs, whatever else, like a museum, entry, shine,
tickets.
Tickets. Thank you very much. Museum tickets, whatever else. There's a lot of, within this one task, I want to travel with my family to Spain, right? Which sounds super easy. There's a lot of transactions within this realm, basically. And so I think it's very smart from Google to basically, hey, give me the whole trip, or I help you design the whole trip and everything you need, because there's a lot of transactioning happening along the way. Super smart, and yeah, really like the start into this agentic future that Sundar Pichai has promised us. What were your thoughts when you first saw these new additions to Google SERPs?
It's always cute how, all the new AI features are always about booking travel or ordering food, right? It's always the same use cases, which makes you wonder, is there, a shortage of use cases? But it clearly shows a couple of things. One, Google is going after the consumer market that ChatGPT or OpenAI is now leaving behind. One. Two, yes, Sundar Pichai is very, I think, paints the future that I don't think is so far away, where AI mode takes over more agentic tasks for you.
He said months, not years, months.
Yes. And I think most people are not ready, in the sense that, we're still talking about commodity content. And so like, I think this agentic world is going to once again reduce way more clicks, right? I mean, we're one click away from the regular search results into AI mode now, right? Because when you see the AI overview, you click on show more, boom, you're in AI mode. And we have Google I/O coming up in May. And so I'm curious on your take, Marcus, what you think will happen or what Google will say. But I don't think they will, announce AI mode as the default search now. But I am convinced, I have high confidence that they will announce more Gemini and AI mode features in Chrome and in all the other devices and surfaces that they have, right? So going agentic from there is not very hard. And so I think this is a whole piece of the pie that we're not able to measure right now, that we're not looking at. But Google recently released a new user agent, I forgot the name, that we should pay a lot more attention to. So I think this is cute, this is cool, but I think there's a big truth underneath all of this, which is that it's easier than ever for AI and especially for Google to take agentic tasks. And this will once again flip the search landscape on its head.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you said is so smart, right? And like that, what Google is going to announce. And I think it's more about distribution, like plugging in Gemini wherever you can plug it, and especially where people are already like completing tasks. Yeah, if you're already completing a task and I can help you do this with AI, you get this aha moment and maybe you want to use it again, right? So I think it makes a lot of sense, like really focusing on the distribution, because this is, just Google's strong suit, because they have so many entities where they can also utilize Gemini and make it accessible to people and just like suck people into their ecosystem. I think distribution right now is still the biggest thing to have. Just people play with it, have these aha moments, and like, oh, let me do more, and then you slightly getting them into really doing in the end agentic kind of features.
Yeah, quick ad. The new user agent is called Google Agent. So that came out 1 month ago. That tells you all you need to know.
That's unique. Another thing that Google launched or is about to launch is apparently like a partner program. So Google is looking for a geo partner manager, performance solutions. What? A geo partner manager. So in this role, you will transition Google's engagement model from generative engine optimization, discovery, to formal ecosystem advocacy. You will manage relationships with geo players, treating them as an influencer channel to steer the geo ecosystem and support brands in Google. What? I mean, I have an idea what this guy is gonna do, but like, what do you make out of this job posting?
Yeah, I think this is one of these things that comes from a non-core business unit at Google. Google hired SEOs.
Not found. It's not there anymore.
Gone. But Google hired SEOs before or had job roles out. I know people who had the title SEO at Google, and these are often roles at like Google Cloud, right, or some other non-core business. And so I think this is very similar. Google, I mean, geo in theory is $1 billion market. And, it's because this guy says SEO and stuff, but it's $1 billion market. And so Google wants a piece of that pie. Agencies and companies have a demand for geo. And so it helps to have somebody on the Google side to manage these geo relationships, quote unquote. But I think this is a lot of hype. And I think this is basically just Google creating a surface for a demand that exists right now, but I'm not sure it will still exist in the next 5 years.
Mm-hmm. Right on. Yeah, I just like how it's written, right? You will transition Google's engagement model from geo to a formal ecosystem advocacy. Yeah, as just sentence alone, as it is.
Wait, what is a geo player? What is that?
You tell me. Maybe we can ask Danny Sullivan.
Maybe it's a sport that I don't know. Maybe I don't know, like hockey or I don't know. I don't know,
man. All right. I got a couple more things. Can you rank in Google without content? There was this. I'm going to go to directly. So this guy, Sasha Derforth, he launched a completely blank website, or this is how when you call it up. This is how it looks like. it's not completely blank, spoiler alert. White page, 0 visible content, but 7 layers of structured data underneath. JSON LD, LLMS, TXT, blah, blah, blah. Also different ways of basically showing that content while not showing the content. And what he's said, basically, look at this, it's the blank page, but it's showing up in Perplexity, in JGTP, as JGTP cited it independently, although no human ever saw the content of the page because there is none. So it's basically saying, for me, this experiment proved a fundamental gap. RAG systems have 0 content provenance verification, while structured lies are indistinguishable from veritable facts. I mean, like we heard this, like we had this piece from Lily just recently and everything. So we know this is absolutely correct. But in this case, it's actually a little bit more complex because this blank page is in fact not blank. If you look, like view source, you see that there's actually a lot of content going in here. And by the way, this is also nice here. You found it. This page is blank by design, but you're reading this, which means you're curious. Good. Curiosity is the last human advantage. Nice. So well done. And you see there's a lot of content in here. Yeah. Obviously that a LLM might be able to read, but again, they don't render the page, so they don't see that that nothing happens. So on the one hand, I liked this experiment, so to speak, and obviously it's very it's an eye catcher, right? Because you're basically saying that you can rank with an empty page, again, which is not the case. So it's a little bit, smoke and mirrors here. But nevertheless, again, also I really appreciate people doing these kinds of experiments. Interesting experiment. What did you think about this?
I think this is a great experiment. I love these types of, creative ways to get to the bottom of something and like understand the mechanics of search and AI much deeper. And this does not stand on loose grounds, right? There were multiple papers that showed that data that is hidden in the source code, or content that is hidden in the source code, can even lead to prompt injections. Now, I think modern AI has developed guardrails and weapons against this, but it is theoretically possible. And so I love that this, that Sasha went out and just tested it for himself. And it's like a very easy to stand up test, right? I had a test in the pipeline with the client a while ago, but we never shipped it. So it's I'm glad to see this live.
Right on. All right, 2 more things. I have this great article here from Pedro Diaz. Always great content from Pedro Diaz. We all know he just started a Substack. You should definitely subscribe to it. But he's also repurposing his content on a search engine journal. And he has this great post about the AI search basically eating itself, and obviously the SEO industry being the source. And he refers to this article that Lily wrote, which we talked about last week, the AI slop loop, with this update that never happened. So basically Perplexity was basically saying an update that happened, the perspectives update or something like this, which never happened. But then you had other blogs basically, all writing about this, and basically like solidifying the sentiment that there might have been this kind of update, although this never happened. And also the thing that you did with this BBC journalist who should write an article about the best tech journalist at eating hot dogs, obviously, which doesn't make any sense. By the way, non-commodity content, right? Again, now, also Lily encouraged this journalist to do this, and again, I mean, like, it's super easy, right? I mean, like, he's writing about it, and it doesn't make any sense. But why should an LLM just ignore this? Oh, this does not make any sense, so I'm just going to ignore this content, right? Also, they are obviously not that smart. Talking about like the super smart AI, right? And he calls this the Ouroboros. Ouroboros is like the snake that eats itself. I think this is like from the Maya or Aztec, basically the circle of life kind of thing. the snake that eats its own tail. And this is how he is basically comparing this to. And I think this is really, really good piece. Again, this is nothing new. He's also pounding a lot of Wikipedia, which I love. And yeah, deservedly it is so, right?
Yeah.
And so this is a really great post. You should definitely check out. Again, also it's so great that we have people like Pedro Diaz, who were like so super smart and have so much experience in this field. Yeah, just share their thoughts now, like almost every week. So yeah, thanks a lot, Pedro. This is super helpful. And last but not least, we have another Mount AI example. This time from Glenn. And in this case study, he basically just wanted to show that typical Mount AI, this is not just this. By the way, Rudiger, the grumpy old SEO, the closed loop bias, and he also wrote about it last November. So you should definitely check this out as well. And the interesting thing is basically what he's saying is like, hey, if this Mount AI is happening and you're losing all your Google traffic, will also have an impact on LLMs. Obviously, when LLM is doing RAG, basically searching Google, and you're not in Google anymore, obviously, you're not going to rank in these AI search engines either. And this is the point he's making, basically. Hey, watch what you're doing in SEO, because if you screw up at SEO, you will also screw up your AIO performance, geo performance, whatever. So, and he's like going very in depth of, like what actually was preserved and what didn't. By the way, great UX for that site. What a great that
beautiful.
A top one spot. Yeah, so this is what his message is. Beware. Great reminder. Do not implement risky and spammy tactics just to rank in AI search. Yeah, it makes everything harder. But this, like, really, as I mean, as it's hard to not do this because you see this working right now all across the board. Self-referencing listicles, even white font, white background kind of stuff, it works. And so obviously people are like inclined to try these kind of things. But I think it's now becomes abundantly clear this time is over, that as the Wild West is over. Even if it might work and you might get it to work for like 2 or 3 more months, don't do it, because these 2-3 more months won't make up for what we call the Tal der Tränen, the valley of the tears, if you hit even a manual or algorithmic filter here. By the way,
dramatic.
Roy, one of the best. Here he is, Roy Hoiskis. It's great you're here, mate. This is all commodity content, since that's what LLMs make. And we all know that Google likes non-commodity content. Absolutely. Yeah, so I mean, like, we've seen so many Mount AIs. It's just incredible. But you can just see how many people just started doing that stuff, when it was like, oh my God, this stuff is working, let's do it. And now it's basically like catching up. And yeah, and in some instances, it's really causing some havoc.
Yeah, the problem is, on the one hand, I know a bunch of sites that are doing this at a high quality and it works for them still. On the other hand, what nobody talks about is that recovering from this takes forever.
Yeah.
This is not
value
just
of the tiers.
Value of the tiers, exactly. It's not as simple as just ripping out that AI content. You need to really prove to Google that you're a quality source, because when this happens to you, when you get this type of algorithmic penalty, you're being parked in a corner that is for bad kids, so to say. And getting out of that corner takes, I'd say, a year probably, because you need to go through multiple core updates to prove to Google not just that your content is of high quality, but also that you attract good user experiences and high quality user behavior. So your content gets de-indexed, right? You're being parked in a different infrastructure part of Google, and you need to dig your way out of this. So it's not just losing the traffic, it's that it takes a long time to even, let's not even speak about traffic, but the impact of that content, regaining it takes a long time.
That's a great point you're making here, because I mean, a lot of people would be glad to say like, oh my God, let me just try it. You know, I'm just going to upload 100,000 articles, and if they, you know, penalize me, I'm just going to remove these 100,000 articles. You know, oh, nothing happened. It just doesn't work this way. By the way, you would have, by, you know, you're getting parked, and then maybe you delete all these pages. You have to entice Google to crawl, like to do a full crawl of your site again, right? I think this is also a big problem, getting these pages like really out. I mean, like you can work with like a negative sitemap and this kind of stuff, but if you like don't have like at least like a little bit of authority, Google will be like, you know what, I'm just gonna crawl this. Yeah, this is pretty crazy. Also very good point. Don't just do it and think, hey, you know, I mean, you can whip up like these pages in like a weekend, right? But again, it could take like a whole year to really get rid of it again. So really think about before you do this. And what you just mentioned, there's also pages where this still works. If you have original content nobody else has, you can still do programmatic SEO like this, right? And you can still have the AI write all the stuff around it, your original content. That's perfect, because Google gets that original content, the original data that only you have, and then Google. So in this case, that it works. So I think the message should be, don't like do the normal blatant, just write me like 100,000 articles kind of thing, but really like, where do I have, also like looking again at the Cyrus content types, right? What do I have which I can leverage? Do I have an own audience I can leverage? Do I have specific things I can leverage, and find a way to leverage this, what you have, and try to like extort it programmatically. So this could still work, but again, be very careful. Be careful, because if this goes south, it will take a long while to make it good again.
Yeah, I always think about the level of effort algorithm that came out in the Google leaks. So Google somehow tries to figure out how much effort it took to create that content, and so you know it's a very simple heuristic. If you can create it in a weekend, it's probably garbage. Go play with your kids, or find someone to make kids with. That's a better use of your time.
Okay, Dennis is switching to a conference call. Have a good weekend. Have a good weekend, mate, too. Thanks so much for Dennis, Rudiger, Roy, the man, the legend, Sasha, everybody else listening and joining us today. Thanks so much. Quick PSA, next week there's no show, no 302 of a kind, because it's a national holiday here in Germany, the Tag der Arbeit, the day of work, where we're not working. The day of work. Like there's one, every year there's one day, the day of work, but we're not working on the day of work. That's cool. So Rudiger wants to go to the pub. I love it. Do it. Yes, and 2 weeks after this, you will actually have my good friend Alex as a co-host. So that should be fun as well. Thanks so much everybody for joining in again, and 302 of a kind. If you can speak German, join us on Monday for another episode of Daily Dose of SEO. That should be fun as well. And if not, we see you again at 302 of a kind in 2 weeks. Again, not next week, in 2 weeks. And now we would like to temporarily redirect you from work to the weekend. Have a great one. Happy optimizing, everyone. Thank you, Kevin, and have a great weekend.
Thank you, Marcus. Great job.